Hi, folks. Welcome to Merry Old England, as depicted by Robert Herrick in Corrina's Going to Maying, and a number of his poems. Herrick, somewhat elderly English clergyman when he wrote the poems, it's in rural England and set out to depict the customs of rural England. Specifically, those related to love, marriage, and such as that. We think about arranged marriages with the nobility and people who have money to throw around and all of that, but marriage, well, go to an English village, marriage would be for love most of the time. Love or other pretty standard conveniences, the same reason we choose mates. Sure, no reason not to. So it went. Now then, couple with this traditional season for courtship, romance, proposals, and such as that. Spring. A part of the English tradition that goes way back into pagan times was celebrating the planting time, the arrival of spring. This being midway through the quarter, or approximately, that is midway between the spring equinox and midsummer. This being about the time to plant in that climate, thus celebration of MayDay. Beltane in pagan times, MayDay for generation upon generations of Roman Catholics and earlier Protestants in England. MayDay for everything, one except the Puritans who, upon gaining power, chopped down the maypoles, banned all celebrations, and said, no, we aren't going to have any fun. No, no, no. And you're not allowed to celebrate the glories and beauties of this world. We won't stand for it. Rawr! Well, gee. Before that, yes, celebrated the season of planting, birds, flowers, warm weather, all the rest of these things, and courtship and marriage. Now, again, love, romance figured very heavily in there because young village women, oh, you're a young woman in an English village? Yes, you pick out this very handsome young beau or this personable one. If you've got more sense, you pick the personable one, but, well, young people don't act that way. Meantime, the young men flocking around the, oh, yes, model of beauty. They do that too, yes. Yes, and perhaps someone, surely someone, picking the most sensible among those young ladies. And so it worked. Yes, marriage expected, settling into farming or the trade to which the young man was apprenticed, and the cooperative spouse and family and kids running about, and all of these things. Well, they're just the model. And Herrick wrote in this fabric. So Corrina's Going to Maine is a courtship poem. Yes, MayDay celebration. Young women would go out early into the fields and gather vines and wildflowers and weave garlands and wreaths and put up on their doors and windows. Okay, you're a young lady. Who are you going out with? Other young ladies? Well, you could. More fun with your boyfriend, though, wouldn't it be? Yes, yes. And take along something to eat. Cakes and cream, sort of like a picnic brunch. And you get out in the fields and ideally Ideally, it's like Herrick is picturing here, so it's got just a beautiful, beautiful morning. The sun is shining and all of that, and two young lovers are looking into each other's eyes, and well, they find other interests besides wildflowers. And the young man would propose marriage, and after the young woman said yes, they would celebrate by very often having at it. Yes, bed then wed. That's, folks, yes, that is more than common socially and always has been, and we know that. Let's be real. Let's ignore the fool Puritans and think about reality here. And so they would have at it in the meadow and come home delighted and announce their engagement and go to the priest so that their marriage could be announced, and in a matter of weeks they would be married. That's the way it's supposed to work. Now, our poem has many of green gown being given, all these things as we went through the poem closely in class. Well, that green gown, that's a young woman's white dress. What happens when you wallow around in the meadow with your white dress? You get grass stain on it, green. Okay, now, occasionally, we hope this doesn't happen, but occasionally, and it did, and we know how young men are. Ladies, young men are hazardous creatures. Be very, very careful whose favors you accept in those regards. Because if the young man reneged, absconded, then the young woman might be stuck. She might find herself pregnant and, in which case she would be a grass widow. That is, one who attained her marriage state without virtue of husband, left to raise the child from their little tryst and stuck. We hope that doesn't happen, but it does. And Herrick wrote as though it wasn't going to happen. His would-be lover wants Corrina out there because he wants to propose. He's in love, and we can tell that. Poems from Herrick tended to celebrate the youthful beauty, the innocence in all of this, and yes, very sensual kind of celebration, as virginity exists to give it away, to trade it off for marriage and the rest of life, and you enjoy this while you are young, as it's the beginning of your life with your chosen young man, ladies, if you chose carefully, and all the rest of this stuff. Now, again, we have in this same time period Puritan reaction. Oh, sex before marriage, this is immoral. Good grief, the thing's declared immoral, and yet the behavior engaged in that period, well, impressive. But Puritans were busy turning their back on all enjoyment. We will not enjoy things. Seem to forget about the very doctrines, the very notions of Christianity that celebrated this beauty of this earth, which was, by those doctrines, created by the deity and all of these wonderful things. Now, we were supposed to be miserable, and so they set about being miserable. Most curious example regarding such things must be Sir Edmund Spenser. We saw that lush, overripe description that he uses in the Faerie Queene. Yes, he described May in that lush fashion, lusher than even Herrick manages here. And after showing us how beautiful it was, turned around and said, this is awful. This is immoral. We can't stand this. We won't have it. Folks, yes, I don't understand Puritans. but that's all right. Meantime, we can understand Herrick here, or have a bit of fun at least with Corrina's going to May. Again, give attention to the details of the poem as we discussed in class.